the honourable member for Calgary-Fish Creek.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I'm going to stand today to speak against this bill. Fair and Family-Friendly Workplaces Act. Fair? Well, that's questionable. Family-friendly? Well, I think we'll find out more about whether that's actually true. Improving the lives of Albertans? The jury is out on that one. And kind of doubtful in certain areas, but I welcome this government to prove it to us that this is going to be fair, family-friendly, and improving the lives of Albertans. Madam Speaker, let's make no mistake. We all believe that this should have been split into two bills right from the very beginning. It was voted down on first reading. It should have been sent to committee. There was a lack of consultation here. Very clear, 27 days of consultation by invitation only in 4 locations only across the province. Online, 27 days of consultation for an inadequate piece of legislation. Again, some good elements to it, but unintended consequences, I believe, are going to be key to this. Much of what has been said by my colleagues, Barrhead, the honourable member from Barrhead-Morinville-Westlock, are going to be repeated here, but I think they deserve repeating. We've been speaking out on behalf of Albertans together, many of us here. Many Albertans, actually. And we're hearing from Albertans that they believe in self-reliance. They believe in free enterprise. They believe in hard work. And they also believe that the best social program is a job. Madam Speaker, I'm very proud of some organizations we've been working with as well. They've been speaking out on behalf of their members, Albertans that they represent, businesses that they represent, employees they represent. Groups like Keep Alberta Working, Canadian Federation of Independent Business, Alberta Hotel and Lodging Association, the Calgary Chamber, Alberta Enterprise Group, Merit Contractors, Alberta Chambers. These organizations represent people and businesses and investors and risk capital that creates jobs. They should be commended. And many of these organizations have said to us, we're apolitical. We don't want to take on any ideology. We want to speak out on behalf of Albertans and businesses. Those are the people that matter to them, and not just to the owners and the operators, but the employees that make their living, that have that job that is the best social program we can deliver, Madam Speaker. We hear from dozens of private businesses. We tabled many letters from owners and managers and HR professionals from organizations across this province, across all sectors, telling us how frightened they were about certain elements of this legislation. Small to medium-sized businesses already struggling because of a carbon tax that has driven their bottom line into the ground. Increasing minimum wages, which have forced them to lay off employees so that they can at least eke out a meager existence and pay themselves as owners, investors, entrepreneurs, a modest wage without having to work 20 hours a day themselves. Struggling through an environment of unemployment where people don't have disposable income, trying to make ends meet. And we hear about the criticism of the existing labour legislation we had in this province. Madam Speaker, I remember when I was with Calgary Economic Development, I think it was 2012, 2013, 87% of the new jobs in Canada were created right here in this province. 87%. That doesn't sound like a flawed labour market to me. We were recruiting across this country and around the world, telling people to come to this great province, to find work, to fill the jobs that we had here, the skilled labour jobs, the labour that they needed, the highly skilled individuals, the engineers, come to Alberta. That doesn't sound like a flawed labour market to me, except that we had a shortage of finding skilled people to come here, who wanted to come to this great province. And now we're suffering with a low disposable income, high unemployment. And here we're going to layer legislation on top of that that is going to burden the recovery that we all hope to see. And yes, we do, there's some good parts to the employment standards here, no question. We all agree with that. We voted for those. But those costs are borne by someone, Madam Speaker. Even for the changes in legislation that are compassionate, that we believe in, and socially responsible, those costs are not borne by us in this House, the 87 of us. They're borne by businesses and investors. And if we don't understand that those costs are going to be there, that the fact that somebody can come back, thankfully now, not 48 hours later, but they'd have to give us 7 days notice, but maybe the employee that you've got in there, you need to give 2 weeks notice to. Well, somebody has to bear that cost of that extra week of costs, of labor costs. And that, for a small employer, that might be significant. For somebody with hundreds of employees, that could be significant. We cannot be cavalier about the costs we layer on Albertans and Alberta businesses that are creating jobs in this province. They're on the brink of survival. Some of these small businesses are being wiped out. And with that, jobs, tax base, and a modest living for owners who only expect a modest return on investment. But make no mistake, when they fail, they take with them landlords and cleaners and building managers and their suppliers and trades that they work with. Madam Speaker, we've made a lot of sacrifices here, and what for? For big labor, for a perspective and an ideology which has skewed this legislation in favour of big labor. Unintended consequences. And the big piece of this, Madam Speaker, is the rescinding of the secret ballot, which we've talked about ad nauseum here. Madam Speaker, the secret ballots have been an expectation within a responsible and responsive democratic society for as long as any of us here have been around, and many years before. A right fought for by our forefathers so that we could have that kind of freedom, that kind of privacy, an expectation of anonymity and freedom from pressure, persecution, intimidation, scorn, ostracization, shunning, or, God forbid, bullying from somebody in your workplace. And Madam Speaker, that could be, we're worried about that, not just from the employer side, but the union side. And we tried to introduce some balance in that in our amendments. 28 of those amendments were voted down by this government. Many of those could have been used to improve this legislation, Madam Speaker. Make no mistake, Albertans are watching you in this endeavour. The economy may respond positively, or it might deliver unintended consequences that we've spoken about. Again, 28 rejected amendments here will bear witness to whether you actually took enough time and consulted adequately, but you didn't even consult well with us in this House. 30 amendments, only 2 accepted, 28 of those rejected. And don't forget, we are here as the voice of Albertans, and you didn't listen to that voice either. So you rushed to pass this legislation after only 27 days of consultation. A botched, late presentation of this legislation, some late amendments brought to us looking like they were printed off of the quick print just minutes ago. Back of a napkin, hardly signed, looking a little bit amateurish, I would say. Looks like the whole bill, stapled when we first got it, rushed to here because why? Because we had 27 days of consultation. That's plenty to listen to Albertans. Madam Speaker, this government pushed, this side of the House pushed back in protection of the rights of Albertans, employees and employers, hardworking people, families, and now we're stuck with your flawed vision of the good, the bad, and the downright ugly in terms of labour legislation. Madam Speaker, the government over there, as they're looking at the amendments, they're looking at that rush legislation, they need to wear it, and they need to bear responsibility for the flaws and for this last stake in the heart of the Alberta Advantage. Thank you, Madam Speaker.